What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. Jimmy Smith, Ryan Moody, our MMA show. If you haven't checked out our Bellator breakdown, recommend you do yourself a favor. Take 20 minutes out of your day, because that was a long one, and go ahead and listen to that. We don't do Bellator all that often, so I think the numbers are going to dictate where we go with that. Now moving on, though, the other fight of the weekend, UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Dos Santos. I am really intrigued by this, Jimmy. I'm going to just preface right now, one of us may make the mistake. You honestly have RDA, the co-main, RDS, the main. Doesn't happen all that often. Should be a commentator's delight, but
JDS. See, you already screwed it up. JDS in the name. You already screwed it up. You already, but you just showcased what we're talking about. So it's good because you showed an example of how you could screw up RDA and JDS.
I got it out of the way early, which is what you want.
You got it out of the way, hey, which I appreciate.
Speaking of showcase, Jimmy, Jamila Hill, Darko Stocic. Listen, I don't want to turn this into a Contender Series rant. Hill was pulled from the Contender Series, but, you know, when they started that, it was supposed to be one fight of the night. One fighter got the call. By the end of the season, they were just signing a ton of guys, and I think Hill is the result here. This is a showcase fight for him in every sense. I mean, he's got height advantage, reach advantage. Really, the only thing that's going to be tested is his ability to withstand that early power. And I think this is a great test for him in that regard. But, you know, he should be able to wear Stocic down. This is a guy that I've seen some cardio issues for. I think that you could probably have Hill maintain distance, work some body kicks, some outside movement, and really pull off a win here, opening a card in impressive fashion.
Certainly possible. And usually when it comes to Contender Series guys coming up to the UFC, taking on someone who's had some losses, hasn't really found their footing in the UFC, that's generally what they're trying to set up. But a lot of what they're testing is, are you mentally ready for this level? Because you can talk about talent and reach and height and everything in the world. If you freeze under the big lights, you're not going to make it here. It's not going to work out for you. So I think more than even tactically, it's let's take someone from the Contender Series, put them on the main card, opening fight, and see how they handle pressure. Does it make them? That's an important thing to keep in mind, because if pressure doesn't get to him, I think he wins this fight.
Yeah, Scott Coker would definitely blush at matches like this, I think, in terms of the way they kind of work to set them up, to make their best traits offset the other fighter's weaknesses. Moving up the card, Hannah Ciphers, Angela Hill. This is, you know, really a balanced card. I mean, this to me is a tough fight to actually call. Pretty even fight. I mean, Ciphers, great leg kicks, good job at keeping distance. I like her punches, but sometimes with both of these girls, to be completely fair, they're a little bit restrained to engage, I guess would be the better way to put it. I do think Angela does a great job at staying outside, works really well to set up her hooks and her uppercuts. I think in this fight, I'm actually going to go the opposite way as we just did, and I'm gonna lean toward that UFC experience. And listen, Angela Hill's from my home state, so I think like something bad happens to me if I pick against a fighter from my home state. I'm just not sure what it is, and I'm not about to find out now.
Another key that you might be a factor here is Angela Hill. You talked about hooks and uppercuts. Very true. She's very good at setting them up, but she likes wider punches. She likes hooks, uppercuts, punches you can get inside of. And one thing about Ciphers is she does have some tight punches, tight combinations. You talked about the leg kick. If she can get inside on some of those wider attacks, Angela Hill liking to stay on the outside, those are punches that are best on the inside, and she tends to loop them a little bit. And I think if Ciphers can find a way in, it might be tough for Angela Hill to deal with. I'm going the other way. Let's go with Ciphers. She's not from my home state.
A rare disagreement. I like it, Jimmy.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
We are flying through these fights, by the way. Somebody's probably listening to this and be like, how did these two talk about Chris Cyborg for 15 minutes and they just knocked out the first two fights on the ESPN card in 4.5? But that's what we do.
I can talk about Chris Cyborg for an hour. I can.
We try.
I really can. Yeah.
Moving up the card, Jordan Espinosa, Alex Perez. Again, man, it's like a pick'em fight. Perez, a really good fundamental striker. Great job of mixing in his shots. I think he does a great job of working well behind his jab. Espinosa, equally as tricky. Great job switching stances. Really nice movement. I honestly see this as one of those fights. We talk about them every so often where both guys have their stock rise. And I think this is going to be a great example of that. I do see Perez just being a little bit more of a complete fighter and probably getting the win. But I think this is going to be one of those ones where we look back and say, hey, even though one guy had to lose on paper, they both actually, in fans' eyes and in a competition standpoint, kind of took that next step and showed, hey, they're ready for upper levels of competition in the flyweight division.
And nothing about Perez, his only loss since 2016 is Joseph Benavidez. Great fighter, of course, knocked him out in the first round, but he's faced better talent. Now, of course, against Benavidez, he was on the wrong end of a knockout. But when you talk about nerves, when you talk about momentum, Espinoza last time out got caught in a triangle by Matt Schnell. I mean, you have to wonder if he's really found his legs in the UFC. He's only 1-1 in the organization. Perez, a little bit more experienced. And as we've seen over and over, that can be a big factor. I got to go with Perez as well.
Co-main event here. RDS, being very careful. Michael Chiesa. Man, it's tough for me to look at Michael Chiesa. Michael Chiesa is a fighter that I've always wanted to like. Very, very well-spoken fighter. Obviously defends his mother very well. That's something me and Jimmy are both fond of, defending mothers. So, there's a lot of good things about Michael Chiesa, but I just need to see more since he's taken the step up to welterweight. Sure, he beat Carlos Condit, but man, Condit had some time off. Diego Sanchez, sure, it's a big name on his record, but Diego Sanchez is pretty battle worn at this point. He's a very plodding fighter. I mean, you kind of have to call it at face value. Great technical game. But listen, you talk about RDA, you talk about Jesus, did I really just do it again? No, I didn't.
You said RDA.
I
okay.
got myself.
You're okay.
Yeah, I'm good. See, I cannot wait.
Okay.
This may be, now it's all in my head, right? It's a mental game now between me and RDA and RDS. JDS. I did it again. Oh my God.
It's funny every time.
It's not. It's, what it is? It's fuel for the comment fire. But you know what? I may listen to the audio because I guarantee you I'm not going to be the only one that does it this week. And they really need to put them on different friggin' cards for this reason.
For people apparently that mix us up all the time, you're the one that keeps screwing up the name. I am not doing it. That's how you tell us apart in this one.
Oh, did you really just jinx yourself like that?
I just did.
All right. We'll see how that goes for you, Mr. Smith. RDA on quite a run. Man, I mentioned before, for those of you guys that haven't listened to podcasts for a while, I had really written him off a couple times. He has the big win against Kevin Lee, and he just has a very complete striking toolbox. Maybe, one of the more complete you'll find in the division. Fast takedown, super kicks, makes guys pay for little mistakes or overcommitting. And, it's just a lot of the things that I don't think Michael Chiesa is going to deal with. I am going to go with RDA in this one, Jimmy.
What's so tough about this is they both have a similar problem. Dos Anjos is just in between. He's not big enough to really compete at 170. It's the elite of the elite. Came up short against Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman, big physical grapplers. Came up short against Leon Edwards. He has trouble competing against guys who are naturally welterweights, naturally big 170-pounders, but he's too big for 55. I think cutting weight really hurt him against Eddie Alvarez, and that was kind of the turning point where we decided he kind of couldn't continue at 55 consistently. But it's a similar deal with Michael Chiesa. Getting to 55 was killing him. But is he naturally a fit for 170 pounds? Now, I would give Michael Chiesa the ground advantage, although Rafael dos Anjos does have a great ground game. Michael Chiesa, that's where he tends to win fights. He owned Diego Sanchez on the ground, submitted Carlos Condit, but can he get him there? Dos Anjos is a strong dude, and even in the fight against Colby Covington, where Colby Covington put a lot of weight on him, a lot of pressure, a lot of clinch work, it wasn't an easy takedown. He had to really work to get Rafael dos Anjos down. I remember Colby Covington, a natural 170-pounder. I just don't know if Michael Chiesa can get him there. Dos Anjos, very, very heavy-handed. Oh, God, but the up and down performances he's had in his last few fights, it's just, man, it's a really difficult one because the momentum right now is with Michael Chiesa. But I would have to say, I think, and I like Mike a lot. I've had the opportunity to roll with him, train with him a little bit. Worked with him on Fox. Really nice guy. I got to go with Dos Santos. I got to agree with you there. I think his hands may be a little too much, and he's had a solid takedown defense. A good guy against a guy who wasn't a Division I wrestler, who isn't a natural 170 pounder. I think Rafael Dos Santos has a little too much for him.
Main event: Curtis Blaydes, JDS. To me, I look at them not just in their name pronunciations the same, but where they are in terms of their career. And to me, one of the things that I really need to learn about in this fight is going to be JDS's chin. The loss to Francis, I'm willing to just write off as the loss to Francis. Curtis Blaydes has been there too, for that matter. But he does still have great fight-changing power, beautiful overhand right, a really good takedown defense. One of the things that I like the most about JDS is his ability to kind of stalk someone down. You don't often see it in a fighter and watch the tide kind of turn as much as you do when he's at his best. He has a really good way of finding what's going to work, whether it's body punches or leg kicks, and really making a fighter get cornered and then doing whatever he has to do to win. To me, you also have to look at Curtis Blaydes. Again, you've kind of write off those losses to Francis. I've really seen some great performances out of him. I go back and look at the Justin Willis fight, where that was one of his best performances as far as a total complete fight. I just don't think that he does anything better than JDS. I think, when I look at this, I kind of have to give him the advantage. And when I look at Curtis Blaydes, there's a lot of good things, but sometimes he doesn't come out all that solid. I think it's going to be one of those, who shows up. And I'm just willing to put more stock into a better Curtis Blaydes showing up than I am the best JDS at this point.
Whenever I talk about heavyweights in MMA at the elite level, top of the UFC, I always say, look, you have to be more than a heavy hitter, right? Heavyweights all hit hard. What do you do that's different? Because every heavyweight says that. Whenever you interview a heavyweight before a fight, what you think? Oh man, I really hit hard. Man, I'm a knockout puncher. Oh man, and it's like, okay, well, you're a heavyweight. You're 240 pounds. You're supposed to be a heavy hitter. Now, there are different kinds of heavy hitters, but when I look at Junior Dos Santos and the success he has had throughout his career, what makes him different? Couple things. Of course, he has natural power, but he has natural range, and he hits from really funky angles. His overhand right just kind of gets around your guard easily. He's got an uppercut that comes right through the center. You think you're out of range, and you're not. So it's power combined with a really unorthodox angle of attack. That's what makes him so deadly, is that timing and the way his punches seem to loop around your guard. Curtis Blaydes is a big guy who's really explosive with his takedown and really punishing ground and pound. Great elbows. To me, this comes down to a little bit more youth and a little bit more momentum. Of course, Junior Dos Santos losing to Francis Ngannou's last time out. Once again, Ngannou's just an incredibly hard puncher, and that's what happened. Same thing against Curtis Blaydes. He ran into trouble against Ngannou. But I think Blaydes right now, 28 years old, right in his physical prime. I think he comes in, uses his takedown early and often. I think maybe that loss to Ngannou taught him, look, I don't want to stay on the outside at all with these heavy punches. I got to get in and use my best advantage which is his wrestling. I think he comes out with a smart game plan, takes Junior Dos Santos down, and I think it's either a decision or a late stoppage against a worn-out Junior Dos Santos. But I got to go with Curtis Blaydes as well.
Do you see this being, since, you worded it that way, and I kind of thought a lot of the same things you were thinking there, do you feel like this could almost be like one of those changing the guard fights? I mean, when you look at JDS's losses, I mean, it really is, we talk about it a lot, the elite of the elite, Stipe, Overeem, Velasquez. I mean, I think he's pretty much, at least at the UFC level, only lost to the best of the best, and I think a lot of people right now wouldn't put Curtis Blaydes in that same territory. But at the same time, he's had some really big wins, too. I think this is going to be a huge momentum push for him. And like we talked about before, I mean, sure, he's got 2 losses to Ngannou. At this point, Francis Ngannou is a really special fighter. And it's almost like when you look at these two and you look at the matchup, and I was kind of comparing the styles, it's almost like I just want to write them off. Like, just they nullify each other. They both lost to him, and you kind of have to look at what's left. And as you said, you just kind of have to look at the concept of, is this kind of the moment where we see Curtis Blaydes kind of push himself into prominence, and we see maybe JDS take that step back, where now going forward we question every other fight that he takes?
I think it might be. And unfortunately, the young eat the old when it comes to combat sports, generally speaking. Now, it's always the rub of, when does experience become a deficit, right? When have you had so many fights that, the blade has become dull? It's a little bit worn. I haven't seen that off a cliff moment from Junior Dos Santos yet. But, I mean, it's, his 3-fight win streak, Blagoy Ivanov, Tai Tuivasa, Derek Lewis. It's the first time he's won back-to-back fights since 2012. I mean, that's saying a lot. I mean, lost to Overeem, Stipe, Kane twice. That's, some of the best of all time, the best of their generation. So you can't fault that. But you just have to wonder, 27 professional fights, has he just gone through too many camps and too many heavy hitters to still be effective? We're going to find out a lot in this fight, but I think it's Curtis Blaydes going up and Junior Dos Santos probably taking a step back.
Super poetic there. You use the word blades and dull in a fight with Curtis Blaydes. But,
you like that? I know you do.
It was better than my JDS and RDA flip-flopping. But I do agree with you. I think this fight is the cliff for JDS. And we don't often know so clearly that this is it. I don't get me wrong. He can win. He has the tools to do that. But I really feel like this is going to be the start of something that maybe he can't pull out of to a degree. And to that point, he's had an amazing run, so you can't take anything away from him.
He has. I mean, he's one of the best of his generation. When this era of heavyweights is over, you talk about the guys who were at the elite and at the top, of course, a former UFC champion, but he fought the best of the best his whole career. And that's saying a lot. That really is. And I've been impressed with him. And hell, who knows? With his power and ability, he could pull off another run should he beat Curtis Blaydes. I see the timing as really belonging to Blaydes in this fight.
Well, with that said, we appreciate you guys checking this out. We will be back in the week with more commentary. And of course, a look at the upcoming monster card. We've really been fortunate to start this year, Jimmy, with UFC 247. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back very shortly with more commentary.